Did you know that the PSP had a camera? In this video, I'm going to be going through this little device here that you attach to your PSP. And the cool thing is that you can take both photo and video with it. So stick around because I'm going to be going through the UI system on this thing and how it works with the PSP and how to take really good photo and video with it. Greetings, my PSP heads, and welcome to the PSP Network, where we celebrate the greatest handheld of all time. Now, you may be thinking, hey, your camera has changed. I am taking footage on a PSP. And that is one of the cooler things that you can do on this system. So I'm going to be walking you through the UI, but I just wanted to give you an example of what your footage is going to be looking like. Alright, so here we go with the user interface, and this is what you're probably going to see when you open your camera application for the first time. How you get to the menu system is by clicking triangle, and you'll notice that you'll have a picture mode here, you'll have a movie mode, you'll have a review section where you can review your pictures and footage, you have settings, you have display, you have effect, you have exposure adjustment, you have white balance, you have image size, and you can zoom in and zoom out. Now, starting off with the camera, one of the cool things that you can do is just press the L button and you can review your images and videos the way you like it. All that stuff. You can see that I recently went to the movies and I got some really cool photos with it. Now, in the settings, there are a few things you can do. You can change the shutter sound, and then you can change the folder options here. And then you can also do reset file number. Say, if you have a photo shoot with this thing and you take photos and you want to reset the counter, you can absolutely do that. Now, you'll have all this information here on the UI system, but if you don't want to look at that so you can see your full window on your image, all you got to do is press this display icon right here. So it'll be gone, and you can just focus fully on what you're taking photos of. You get some interesting effects on this PSP camera application. Basically, if you go into that, you have a plethora of different options. The first one is sketch, and you can see that that is a sketch drawing. It kind of acts as if it was sketching it on with a pencil. This one is called toy camera. I don't really know why it is called toy camera. I guess it's because it's very, very, very poor quality. And there's another one. It's called distortion, and I guess you can see that line. I'll put my hand out in front for a better look. Yeah, you'll see that's why it's called distortion. And then you have text. This is basically monochrome for the PSP camera, which is really, really cool. Now, for exposure adjustment, there are going to be situations where you want to expose for the outside of your setting, or you're going to be wanting to expose for what your subject is. Say you have a person and you have a photo shoot, and it's really, really bright outside, like on the beach. You're pointing against the light, like the sun, and you say you want to expose for the sky. Now, what you would do is just have that exposure setting. It goes all the way down to 1.1.5. So you go down to a negative 1.5, and it will correct the exposure. The camera automatically reads what your exposure is, but if you have exposure adjustment on, it will compensate for whatever you want your subject to be. So say if you wanted to have a silhouette picture and you wanted the sun to be exposed properly, you would do this setting. Now, say you were shooting inside, pointing at a window, and you want your subject to be standing in front of the window, and you want your subject exposed. Putting it over to plus 1.5, it shows you how bright this thing can get in a low light scenario. So if you ever got this camera onto your PSP, just experiment with the different exposures and see which ones you like and which ones fit the scene. Now, if you put it back to 0.0, you've seen it on different cameras before, and it just equally exposes the image. Now, moving on to white balance. This is more of a color temperature kind of vibe. There are going to be 4 settings that you're going to want to look at. Now, with automatic, it's always going to white balance your image automatically, so you'll always have that perfect white look. With daylight, it's going to give off a look, and say if you have some sort of incandescent light, it's going to make it look incredibly orange. So with fluorescent white balance, you can see that the image is a little bit bluer. So basically, it's taking the Kelvin downward, and it's making the light look more blue to counteract whatever light is your main light source. Moving on to incandescent. Incandescent lighting is definitely warm, so basically what the white balance is doing is making the image more blue so that the incandescent lighting doesn't look too orange. Does that make sense? As I said, it's more of a creative choice to where whenever you're playing with different lighting scenarios, something for you to take into consideration. So with image size, basically there are 3 different image sizes. Usually people will go with the 480 because you can basically use the whole screen. And the interesting about this setting is that you can zoom. And that's one of the cool things about this image size. You can zoom in, zoom out, use the whole width of the screen. Usually most of the time I just do 640 pixels. And usually that's the image size I leave it on because I want the most quality. And it uses the whole lens. You're going to get the most detail out of the 640, but you will be able to zoom in and zoom out of the 480. It's all depending on what you want to do with your pictures. So one of the cooler things you can do with the camera itself is change the focusing length on it. So if I wanted to switch over and take a close-up shot of some flowers, I would just switch this little knob here, and it would pull the focus to where you can take a close-up shot of whatever your subject is. Now, if I wanted to take some mountain photos, I would switch it back to its normal focusing length so I can get more of a landscape kind of shot. Now that you've gotten an idea of what the photo setting can do, let's go switch over to the camera mode and see what you can do there. Now, if you want to switch modes, just hit that select button and you will go to video mode, as you can see here. Now, with this video mode, you can see that there's a similar layout to the UI with the photo mode, and there's basically just a few things that are different that I want to go through with you. Now, when you click into the image size, you will see that there are 2 settings for pixels. There's 480 and 320. Now, I usually just stick with 480 because that's just the best quality you can get. But here's the catch. There are 2 different frame rates for each setting, and here is an example of both. Now, you can see that this is 15 frames per second, and if I were to shoot a movie or anything like that, I would probably be using this frame rate. It kind of just expresses movement and action a little bit more impactfully. Now with 30 frames per second, it's more of a basic kind of like movement that you would see on a phone or a vlog. I switched over to portrait mode because I would usually vlog on this thing if I wanted to make content for things like Instagram or TikTok. If I wanted to show more of like the phone format style, I would be using 30 frames per second to do so. Now that was the whole walkthrough of the camera setting and the camera application on the PSP system. I've used this thing for lots of really cool vintage content for my channel, and I think it's a great way to not break the bank if you wanted to get something that looked like a professional camcorder. I think that this thing is very useful for if you wanted to do like skating videos or, different things like that. And I think that it's so cool that this thing from 2004 is able to take pictures with this little attachment here. I love it. And I just love how that you can just switch this camera all over the place. You can even stick it up if you wanted to. But yeah, you can just switch it to, front facing or back facing, which is so intuitive. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell if you want to just be kept up to date with all the PSP content that I'm putting out. Please let me know down in the comments if you're getting this thing for your PSP. Thanks again, everyone, and I will see you in the next video.